This video will cover the Year 9 Linear Solving Applications Test Preview. I put some time tags down the bottom for anyone who's following along with the test paper. So there's question numbers there, and there's also some descriptions of what each question's about, so you can skip to the parts you need.
Question 1A is balance method. What we need to do is we need to pick on the thing that stands out and do the opposite to what we're told. That's divided by 7 there, so we're going to multiply both sides by 7. And that would get rid of it normally. So what we'll end up with is 2 minus 3f equaling minus 42. Now we'd like to get rid of that 2. It's a positive number, so we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. I'll end up with negative 3f's. And on this side, I'll end up with minus 44. I need to get rid of that negative 3, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. All I'll have left is f. When I divide one negative by another, I end up positive. I'm going to leave this one in fraction form. I'll simplify it if I can, but that's my final answer. 1b, what we need to do here is we need to expand before we simplify. So remember, to expand, we're doing this number times this number times this. So it will be minus 3 times 4b makes minus 12b's. Minus 3 times 1 makes minus 3. Let's remove that minus 3. We'll do that by adding 3 to both sides. All I've got left is minus 12b. And on this side, I've got 10. Now I want to remove the minus 12. It's being multiplied by the b, so I'll divide by minus 12 both sides. What I'll end up with is b. On this side I'll have 10 over negative 12. I can simplify that fraction, so the correct answer is b equals minus 5/6. Question 1c, this one's a 3-step balance method question, but it's still just balance method. Let's remove that 2 first, it's out here by itself, that minus 2. We'll do that by adding 2 to both sides. All I have left is 5 minus 7c all over 8. And on this side, I'll have 1. Let's get rid of the 8. It says to divide by 8, so I'm going to multiply by 8 both sides. All I have left is 5 minus 7c, and on this side, I'll have 8. I'm going to target that 5 next. It's a positive number, so I'll take 5 from both sides. All I have left is minus 7c's, and on this side, I'll have 3. Target the minus 7, it says to times by minus 7, so I'll divide by minus 7 both sides. All I have left is c, and on this side I'll have minus 3/7. 1d, this one's got decimals in it, but don't be deterred, it's exactly the same. It's just balance method. Let's get rid of that 3.7 first, it's a negative number. So what we'll do in orange is we will add 3.7 to both sides. And now all I have left is 6.5 m's, and on the right I'll have 116.1. Just use a calculator to help you out with the decimals. Getting rid of the 6.5, it's telling me to multiply, so I'm going to divide both sides by 6.5. Pop it in your calculator, and m will be 17.86. I rounded to 2 decimal places for accuracy. 1e. Now we've got pronumerals or letters on both sides of the equation. Let's shift them one way or the other. If you don't like negative numbers, a great strategy here is to always shift the letters in a way that they'll give you a positive number of letters. So I will target that minus 6c and I will add 6c to both sides. That means that on this side I'll have 7. Over here I've now got 7c's minus 5. Let's target that minus 5 by adding 5 to both sides. Now I've got 12. And on this side I've got 7c's. I'll divide by 7 both sides. Now I've got 12 sevenths. Can't simplify that any further. And I've got c it's fine to leave it like that. You can switch it around if you like, so c equals 12 over 7, but as it's written there, that's a perfectly acceptable answer. 1f, this one's got brackets. We're going to have to expand before we start. So remember, that's just that times that times that, okay? So we've got 5 times 3m makes 15m's. 5 times 1 makes 5. We've got m minus 5 over here. Let's target the single m first. It's a positive m, so let's take it away. Now all I've got is 14m's and 5. And on this side I've got minus 5. I'll target the positive 5 next by taking 5 from both sides. All I've got left is 14m's. And then this side I've got minus 10. Now I'll get rid of the 14. It's telling me to times by 14. So I'm going to divide by 14. All I've got left on the left is m. And on the right I've got minus 10 over 14. That fraction can be simplified, so we'll simplify it. Minus 5 over 7 is the final answer. When we move down to g, we've got some fractions. Now, what we need here is we need a common denominator at the bottom. That means that the bottom number has to be the same. And so I look at 12 and 2, and I know that I can turn a 2 into a 12 by multiplying it by 6. So if I make this number 6 times bigger, I have to do the same to the top. I am allowed to do this. It's an equivalent fraction, okay? I don't normally bother writing that in. What we normally do is we just say, we're going to make them twelfths. And you put a little times 12 up here. So we're timesing by 12. Sorry, my stylus went flat. Now, what that means is if we were to really write this out again, now what we've got is we've got x and 6 outside of x minus 3. And this is the line that we jump into. What's really happening here is we've got equivalent, or we've got common denominators of twelfths, but we'd go through and remove those by making everything 12 times bigger anyway. So usually we don't worry about any of this stuff here. We just skip straight to this and then expand and get on with solving for x. So we've got x, we've got 6 times x makes 6x. We've got 6 times minus 3 makes minus 18. So that it demonstrates that it doesn't matter if you get negative numbers, let's take 6x's from both sides this time, just for something different. We'll end up with minus 5x's here, and on this side we'll end up with minus 18. Let's divide both sides by minus 5 to remove it. All I have left is x, and on this side, a negative divided by a negative makes positive 18 fifths. We can't simplify that fraction, so it stays as is. In 1h, we've got a 9 and a 6. Now, we could use the butterfly method. Some people learned that in year 7. But what we're going to end up with is 54ths. We're going to have really big numbers to deal with. And so it might be more efficient if we find the lowest common denominator. And you can do that by just stringing out all of the possible denominators. So 1 9 is 9, 2 9s are 18, 3 9s are 27. Do the same to the sixths. 1 6 is 6, 2 6s are 12, 3 6s are 18, and aha, we've got our lowest common denominator. So we're going to make these 18ths, and we'll make everything 18 times bigger to get rid of that ultimately. But just so that we are comfortable with where we are, to turn a 9 into an 18 we need to double it. Remember, you have to do that to the top as well. Turn a 6 into an 18, you triple it, but remember you've got to do that to the top as well. So our new line would read 2 outside of x minus 5 equals 3 outside of x plus 2. Let's expand. 2 times x is 2x, 2 times minus 5 is minus 10, 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 2 is 6. Alright, let's shuffle these around. Let's make a smart choice on this one. Let's keep all our x's positive. So we will take 2 x's from both sides, and what we'll end up with is minus 10 being equal to x plus 6. Now we'll take 6 from both sides and we'll find that minus 16 is equal to x, and that one's finished. Again with I, what we want to do is we want to make sure we don't end up with enormous denominators, because we'll end up with 150ths if we do the butterfly method. So 1 10's 10, 2 10's are 20, 3 10's are 30, 1 15 is 15, 2 15's are 30. That's a great common denominator. Let's run with that one. So what we'll do is we'll make a note that we're making 30ths. And then we'll also, just so that we don't lose track of what we're up to, just make ourselves a little note that we're making this one 3 times bigger to make it 30. We have to do the same to the top. Making this one twice as big to make it a 30, and we've got to do the same to the top. So our next line will read 3 outside of 1 minus 5x, and that will be equal to 2 outside of 3x minus 1. Let's expand and solve for x. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times minus 5x is minus 15x. 2 times 3x is 6x. And 2 times minus 1 is minus 2. Let's shift our x's to the right again to keep everything positive. So we'll add 15x's to both sides. This is the smart choice. We've got 3 left here. And now on this side we've got 21x's. We've still got that minus 2. Let's add 2 to both sides. And now we'll have 5 and 21x's. Let's divide by 21 on both sides. And we'll have, 5 over 21 being equal to x. Alright, question 2. Now these ones aren't really any harder than the ones that we've been doing. What they do is they just add another layer on. So after we've finished expanding, it's the same deal. That times that, that times that. But after we've done that, and then the next section, we're going to need to collect like terms before we solve. So that's the new part of this one. The other little thing that you might notice here is that there's a negative here, and that's a negative 1. So if they don't have a number there, it's a 1. It's important that you remember that, because it will apply to both the 3 and the d. So when we go to expand this out, we've got 4 times 2d makes 8d. We've got 4 times minus 1 makes minus 4. You might notice as well, I'm not worrying about whether it's going to be a plus or a minus next. I'm just treating them as individual terms, which is what they are, and I just write them down as I create them. So I've got minus 1 times 3 makes minus 3. Minus 1 times d makes a minus d. And on the other side, I've got 2 times d makes a 2d, and 2 times 3 makes a positive 6. Right, let's collect our like terms. We've got 8d's, take away 1d makes 7d's, and I've got a minus 4, minus 3 makes minus 7. And I've still got my 2d and 6 over here. Now let's shift those, or get rid of those 2d's. So we'll take them away from both sides. All I'll have left is 5d's. Minus 7 equals 6. So minus 7, let's add it to both sides. Now all I'll have left is 5d's. And on this side I'll have 13. And it's telling me to times by 5, so I'm going to divide by 5 both sides instead. All I'll have left is d, and over here I'll have 13 fifths. Before you start the next one, pick your favourite letter. It can be D or C. I'll just turn them all into D's because it'll look neater on the sheet. Bit of a typo here. You can't have C's and D's. In this question, you can only have one letter, okay? You can't solve it otherwise. So let's just run with C's. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to expand, collect like terms, and solve. So minus 2 times 4 makes minus 8. Minus 2 times minus 3d makes positive 6d's. Minus 7 times 1 makes minus 7. And minus 7 times minus 2d makes positive 14 Ds. And on the right, I've got 5 times 2D makes 10 Ds. And 5 times minus 5 makes minus 25. Let's collect like terms. I'll start with my Ds. So I've got 6 Ds and 14 Ds. Now I've got 20 Ds. Nothing wrong with collecting the numbers first. I just like to follow the same pattern every time. Minus 8 minus 7 makes minus 15. On the right, I've still got 10 Ds and minus 25. Let's get all the D's on the left. That way everything will stay positive. So let's take 10 D's from both sides. And what we'll be left with is 10 D's here. Still got our minus 25 here. Now it's telling me to take 15, so I'll add 15 instead to both sides. All I have left is 10 D's, and on this side I'll have minus 10. Telling me to times by 10, I'll divide by 10 both sides. All I've got left is D, and on this side I've got minus 1. That one's solved. Moving into question 3. These ones are long-worded questions. In this question, we're going to need to create our own algebraic equation. Remember, equations have equal signs, and the second part of this is that we're going to need to solve it. It's important that we don't forget that at the end. So let's have a look at what we've got to work with. We've got the sum of 3 consecutive numbers. That means the plus. And the word consecutive means one after the other. Now, these numbers are also odd. So if you think about odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, the thing about odd numbers is that they are 2 numbers apart. What you don't want to do in this question is create a situation where you've got more than one prime numeral. And what I mean by that is if you said 3 consecutive numbers, great. In that case, I'm going to go x plus y plus z equals 207. You've created a mess because you can't solve it. You're only allowed to use one letter, okay? So what we might do is we might call the first number x. That means it needs to be added to a number that is 2 numbers higher than it. So let's call that x plus 2. Then you need to add it to one that is 4 higher than the original. So it will be x plus 4. And that will equal 207. And so we're starting to get together a formula here. Let's collect our like terms. We've got 3 groups of x, and we've got 6. That equals 207. So we've successfully done the first part of this question. We have created an equation. Now we need to solve it. And that is just the balance method. That's the only method that you guys have got at this stage. So let's just jump straight to it. Let's remove that 6 by taking 6 from both sides. All I've got left is 3x's. And on this side, I've got 201. Now what I want to do is I want to divide by 3 on both sides. All I have left is x. And all I have left is 67. But this is not the answer to this question, because the question is asking, what are the 3 numbers? The 3 numbers are 67, because that's the first number, 1 2 higher than it, as in the next odd number, and then the next odd number. So they are 67, 69, and 71. Question 4, we've got consecutive numbers again. These ones aren't odd or even though. These are just one number after the other. Just think 1, 2, 3, 4. And this time there's 4 of them. So the first number can be called x or whatever letter you like. The next one will be 1 higher than x. The next one will be 2 higher than x. And the last one will be 3 higher than x. Let's keep reading the question though. They're added together and then they're doubled. Okay, so we have to add them together first, which means we better put them in brackets. Otherwise, order of operations will wreck our result. Okay, and the result is 356. Let's start to clean up this mess. We've still got our 2. Let's just leave that float out the front. I've got 4 x's this time, and I've got 1 plus 2 plus 3 makes 6, and that equals 356. Now, I could expand this, but really I might just leave this equation as it is because it doesn't tell me that I have to have it in its simplest form. And if I leave it like this, it's just going to make it a touch easier for me to use the balance method, because instead of going to the trouble of expanding that, I can just kick this off by dividing both sides by 2, and that'll get rid of that 2 for me over there. So now all I'll have left is 4x's, and on the right I'll have 178. Tells me to add 6, so I'm going to take 6 away. All I'll have left is 4x's, and on the right I'll have 172. This time I'm going to divide by 4, and that'll leave me x, and on the right that'll leave me 43. And again, this is not the answer. The question is asking me what are the numbers. Okay, so remember the first one is 43, and then it's consecutive numbers, so 44, 45, 46, and that one's answered. Last question. This one has got 3 parts. Notice this time it's asking me to write an expression, okay, not an equation, so this one doesn't need an equal sign at this stage. And it's asking me about the perimeter of a rectangle. You might remember the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle. It's the perimeter is twice the length plus twice the width. If you don't remember that, it's no big deal. Remember, the perimeter is just the distance around a shape, okay? So you have to remember that this side is also 3x minus 2, and that this side is also 20 minus x. I'll use the formula. I'm going to ditch the p equals bit though, because I only need an expression. So it's going to be twice the length, and I'll call 3x minus 2 the length. And I'll say twice the width, and I'm going to call the width the other dimension, which is 20 minus x. And be careful, it tells me that it has to be in fully simplified form, unlike the question before this. So I need to expand and collect like terms. 2 times 3x makes 6x, 2 times minus 2 makes minus 4. 2 times 20 makes 40, and 2 times minus x makes minus 2x. Let's collect our like terms. I've got 6x's minus 2x makes 4x, and I've got minus 4 plus 40 makes 36, and that's my expression right there. Questions B and C are going to get me to use the rule that I've just created, and then they're going to get me to substitute into it, okay? So let's drag our rule. This time we kind of need an equation to answer this one because it's asking me what the perimeter is. So I'll pop the P back in, and I'm going to write our rule that we've created in down here. And now it's telling me that I have a value for x. It's going to be 5, okay? So it's just substitution, just like in the fundamentals test. Every time I see an x, I'm just going to replace it with a 5. Order of operations, multiplication before addition. 20 plus 36 is 56. Now don't forget your units, okay? It is a measurement question at the end of the day, and you'll lose half a mark there after all that hard work. Similarly, question C uses the formula that we've created, or the equation that we've created. So we're still at P equals 4x plus 36. But this time, they're going to tell me that the perimeter is 80 centimeters. And I want to know what the unknown side is. So fill it in. We got 80 equals 4x plus 36. No big deal. It's just balance method. So this time, let's take 36 from both sides. All I have left is 44. Over this side, I've still got 4x. So let's get rid of that 4. It says to times. I'll divide by 4 both sides. I have 11. and x. And in this case, we're going to need to switch it around. So x is 11 centimetres. Again, don't forget your units. And that's our final answer. Hope that helps.